Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to dive right into something called Title IV. It's basically a package of laws aimed at tackling one of the biggest challenges out there, just finding an affordable place to live. So let's break down exactly how it plans to do that.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? For so many people, that dream of actually owning a home feels like it's blocked by these massive hurdles. And that's exactly where Title IV is supposed to come in. It's a direct attempt to clear some of those roadblocks out of the way.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with the big picture, and then we're going to drill down into 4 key areas: the issue with small mortgages, the bottlenecks in the appraisal world, a really interesting new way to help families save, and finally, a move towards smarter housing inspections.
So what is Title IV, really? Well, think of it less like one giant law and more like a toolkit. It's a whole collection of very specific fixes, and each one is designed to repair a different broken part of the housing market.
And that brings us to this core idea of broken rungs on a ladder. The thinking is, if you can fix these individual, very specific problems one by one, the hope is that the entire ladder to homeownership just becomes stronger and, more importantly, a lot more accessible for everybody.
All right, let's jump into the first major hurdle this thing tries to tackle. And that's the challenge of getting a loan for a more affordable home. We're talking specifically about loans under $100,000.
I mean, just think about it from the lender's perspective. It takes pretty much the same amount of paperwork and work for a $50,000 loan as it does for a $500,000 one. So, which one do you think they're going to prioritize?
Yeah, exactly.
And this creates this massive barrier for people who are just trying to buy a modest, affordable home.
So just so we're all on the same page, when we talk about this problem, we're laser focused on what the legislation itself calls small dollar mortgages. And these are so important. They're often those vital first step loans that help people get their foot on the property ladder in the first place.
So the proposed solution is a pretty straightforward 3-step plan. First, they want to report on how loan originators are actually paid to see if the incentives are out of whack. Second, they'll analyze what's really stopping these small mortgages from being offered. And finally, based on all that, they'll issue new rules to actually encourage lenders to offer more of these small dollar mortgages.
Okay, next up, let's talk about a problem that can totally stall a home purchase, like right at the finish line. We're talking about the appraisal process.
And really, this is just a classic supply and demand issue. There's a shortage of qualified appraisers. So when you can't get an appraisal done quickly because there just aren't enough people to do the job, the whole home buying process can just grind to a halt. And I mean, this can literally cause deals to fall through completely.
So the first part of the solution is, well, it's a pretty common sense change that just cuts through a bunch of red tape. Before, appraisers doing FHA loans needed a separate license for every single state they worked in. It was a mess. Now, after this change, a single state license is valid for FHA appraisals in all states and territories. This is a huge deal, and it should directly help ease those backlogs, especially in areas that don't have enough local appraisers.
And this next part is really about the long-term fix. The Act officially recognizes something called state-credentialed trainee appraisers and lets them assist on appraisals. What this does is it creates a clear, official pipeline for new talent to enter the field. The goal here isn't just a quick fix, it's to solve this workforce shortage for years to come.
Okay, now for something I think is a really innovative idea. This part is all about helping families in assisted housing do something that is, well, it's often incredibly difficult, and that's build up some savings and wealth.
You see, there's this really frustrating problem. It's kind of like a savings trap. Imagine you're in assisted housing and you work hard, you get a raise or a better job, but then your rent automatically increases, sometimes by a similar amount. It can feel like you're just running in place, like you can never actually get ahead.
And here is the really elegant solution. It's a pilot program, and instead of that rent increase just going away, the program diverts it and funnels it directly into an interest-bearing savings account for the family. It's so clever. It basically turns what feels like a penalty for earning more money into a powerful tool for building savings.
Now, this is just a pilot program to start. They're going to test this out with up to 5,000 families across the country, and they're making sure to include both urban and rural areas, to really see how it works in different kinds of communities.
So let's just walk through how that works one more time. Step 1. A family's earned income goes up. Good news. Step 2. Their required rent payment also goes up. Not so great. But then step 3, that increase gets deposited right into a savings account for them. And finally, step 4, the family can access those savings for big goals, things that help them become more self-sufficient.
All right, let's get to the final piece of this whole puzzle. We're talking about making the housing inspection process faster and way more efficient, especially for families who are using housing vouchers.
In a competitive rental market, time is absolutely everything. If a required inspection takes forever to schedule and get done, a landlord who has other potential tenants might just rent the unit to someone else. And just like that, the family with the voucher is left high and dry, right back at square one.
So the solution here is pretty logical. It's all about cutting out redundant work. The basic idea is, look, if a unit has already passed a solid inspection in the last 12 months for another major housing program, like LIHTC or the home program, why on earth would we do it all over again? This act says you don't have to. And on top of that, it starts to embrace technology by allowing for remote or even video inspections in some areas, which could be a total game changer, particularly in more rural places.
Okay, so let's pull back for a second. We've just walked through 4 pretty distinct problems, right? Small mortgages, appraisals, savings, and inspections. And we've also looked at 4 very targeted solutions designed to fix them. And when you look at all these pieces together, you can see they're not just random fixes. They're designed to work as a whole, to really smooth out the biggest friction points in the housing system. The things that can stop people from getting into affordable, stable housing and, building a secure future for themselves. The fundamental hope behind Title IV-I is that by removing these very specific, tangible barriers, you create more pathways to prosperity. The plans are all laid out, they're detailed, but the big question is still out there. Will all this be enough to truly reopen the door to the American dream for everyone? The ultimate impact, that's something we're all just going to have to watch and see.